Hey everyone, it's Lexi. So in today's video, I'll be sharing with you some winter reading recommendations. I feel like winter in particular is the one kind of season that I really like to read books that tend to be a little bit more season specific in terms of the season that the book takes place in. So I like it to have kind of cold, that cold, crunchy snow feeling, that like kind of eerie silence that comes after a great snowfall. I really like books that really capture that feeling. So I have 5 books here that I feel like perfectly kind of capture that kind of fall feeling or that winter feeling, and most of them are fantasy, so there's only one that's kind of a historical fiction that I feel like kind of has that winter vibe to it, but a lot of these are fantasy. I do tend to read a little bit more fantasy in the winter time, so that's why I think I gravitated a little bit towards these ones. So yeah, without further ado, let's get started. So first up, I have Lilac Girls by Martha Hall Kelly. This is the first book in the Faraday family series. You don't have to read any of the books in kind of order or anything like that, but they kind of follow the same family in this case, but just over different time periods. So we have, Civil War, First World War, and World War II. This is the World War II one, and it follows 3 different women and their experience during World War II. We follow Caroline Faraday, who is kind of a socialite in New York, and she wants to kind of use her kind of influence for good. So she tries to help, refugees that are of like concentration camps. So we kind of get her story of how she kind of, was involved with the war effort and how she used it to kind of help women who went through harrowing experiences. And then we also get 2 other stories. You get Kazia, who is this Polish teenager who ends up getting sent to a concentration camp in Auschwitz, and then we also, or I guess, is it Ravensbrück? Sorry, she gets sent to Ravensbrück, and then we also follow another woman's perspective who is one of the few like Nazi women Nazis that worked at Ravensbrück. So all of these women are interconnected somehow with their stories, which is always very interesting and fun. But this one also, because it takes place in winter for parts of the story, it kind of really hits home because that people had to live through grueling, like cruel winters in such horrendous conditions being in concentration camps, and I feel like that kind of cold and survival cold really kind of comes through. There's something really captivating about this author's writing where I read it and I look up, I'm like, oh my god, I already read 50 pages already. There's something so engrossing about her writing that you just really lose yourself in the story and the characters. And I really love how obviously we know how the prisoner and the kind of Nazi are connected in the storyline, but we don't really know how Caroline gets kind of connected to everything. So I really like how all of these stories interconnect each other in kind of unexpected ways, and I feel like this book really is a good one to lose yourself into because it is so heartbreaking to hear about. So I definitely recommend this one. It was a difficult read, but definitely is one of my standout favorite World War II historical fiction reads of all time. Next up, this is kind of a cozy fantasy, and it is Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies by Heather Fawcett. And this one is really kind of, if you enjoyed Spiderwick as a kid and you like The Cruel Prince, if you like that type of kind of fairy vibes, I think this is the perfect book for you. But we follow Emily Wilde, and this book is kind of told from her basically journal entries. She is a researcher in folk and folk creatures, I guess, in a world where people know that they exist. And so when she's finishing up her encyclopedia of fairies, she goes to this kind of very remote northern village that has this very unique group of fairies that is, I want to say it's kind of like Norway-esque or like Baltic North Sea area to give you kind of an image in your mind. And then her kind of professional competitor and also kind of arch nemesis comes along, and there's kind of a very subtle kind of romance subplot in here as well. But I think if you are if you really like kind of Holly Black's fairy world, I think you'll definitely like this. These are kind of fae that have teeth to them. They are ugly, they are warty, they are evil, like those type of things. And but there's also really cute ones as well. So I felt like this book did a really good job at capturing that. They're like living in this cabin, and you have to, you know, chop wood in order to like survive the night because it is so cold, and going out into the forest with all the snow and trying to figure out where these kind of fairies are. It's really a lot of fun. The last book in the trilogy came out this year, so this is also one that you can kind of marathon if you are, you know, snowed in. It's really a great series to leave yourself into, so I highly recommend this one. Like I said, even though it's kind of cozy fantasy, there are kind of more intense moments kind of interwoven into this one as well. So like I said, I really enjoyed this one, and I think you guys will too. Next up, this is one that I feel like really has that like eeriness to it, and this book was written way before kind of recent events took place, and it is Year One by Nora Roberts. This is the first book in the Book of One Chronicles. But basically the premise of this story is that there is this pandemic that breaks through the kind of globally, and the only people that seem to be immune to this kind of viral outbreak are people who have some sort of magic power to them. So you can see how that can cause a lot of like dynamics and issues within society. And this virus has wiped out 2/3 of the world's population within a matter of weeks. So things have become very dire. And so we follow this couple who are trying to kind of find a place that is safe for them and their growing family. But part of this takes place in kind of winter, and it is just very eerie. Like I feel like this kind of just has, I feel like that cold like winter, but that kind of eeriness too of like feeling like you're being watched. I think this book really does a great job of that. And again, this is a trilogy that has come out. I think the first book came out in like 2017. So this trilogy has been finished for a while now, and I really enjoy it. I think it's a really unique read, and definitely one that I think a lot of people, especially have, you know, lived through a global pandemic, obviously not a magical one, but we kind of know what that feels like. And so I think it's very interesting reading this from that experience. So definitely, you know, really recommend this one. It's not one I hear people talk about a lot on BookTube, so definitely recommend this one. Next up, I have Gilded by Marissa Meyer. This is book 1 of 2 within this duology, but basically it is a retelling of the Rumpelstiltskin, I guess like fairy tale essentially, but we follow this girl who is kind of known for being cursed by her mother for kind of weaving these elaborate tales, and that gets her the attention of one of these kind of evil like fae people that live in the area, but they only get access to the human world when the veil is kind of at its lightest, which is during the winter solstice, and it kind of goes from there. Again, because this one takes place around kind of the dead of winter where it is dark, you know, that cold feeling outside that is just like the stillness of winter and kind of that feeling of unease that comes with that. This book does a really good job with this one. I really love this duology. I love Marissa Meyer's like fairy tale retellings, and this is again one I don't hear a lot of people talk about, but it was so good. I definitely think book 2 is definitely, it addresses some of the maybe like minor things I had with this book, but it was definitely a great read, and one that really captures that like kind of freezing cold winter feeling and that sense of unease and like being watched, that crunchy snow, like seeing your breath in the air, like all those things you can definitely see in this one, and it kind of really gives off those like winter vibes. And it's a little bit spooky as well. There is really kind of dark spooky elements in this that I was not expecting, a little bit gory sometimes, which again took me by surprise, but I think winter is the perfect time to really capture that atmosphere and kind of the weather of the book in this one. So I feel like combined with like, you know, dark cold nights and this retelling, I think it kind of perfectly captures that kind of vibe. And lastly, a winter kind of reading recommendations book would not be complete without The Bear and the Nightingale by Catherine Arden. This is the first book in the Winter Night trilogy, and this is one of my favorite fantasy series of all time. But we follow this young girl, Vazia, who's growing up in kind of medieval Russia, and she, again, like this just is like, it does not scream like winter to you, like it is very, very wintry, But basically the premise of this is, this book in particular, we follow her from childhood to a teenager, and she has these kind of ability to speak and see a lot of the kind of folklore creatures that are very prominent in Russia or well known in Russia that most people cannot see. So she is able to kind of see these two, like the human world and then also kind of this folklore world as well. So we follow her kind of getting that experience in growing up with these folk creatures, but there is kind of this dark looming presence known as the bear that is kind of hiding in the shadows, that is wreaking havoc in the villages kind of throughout Russia. And then also there is kind of this wave of religious kind of ideology coming in through kind of taking away the transitioning from, you know, believing in folklore creatures to kind of believing in God, and also that's kind of tying in as well with religion. This book, I will say, is a little bit tricky to get to. The first 100 pages are very slow, but this is, again, one of my favorite like fantasy series of all time. It is so incredibly well done, especially once you kind of get past those 100 pages. It really kicks off and you just become so invested in Vazia's story, and just seeing her grow throughout the entire trilogy is really well done. But I feel like this one is more, they're all kind of wintry, but I feel like this one, especially with the cover, is much more wintry in that, again, with this cover. But yeah, definitely really recommend this one. Like I said, you just need to kind of get past that first 100 pages, and then honestly, this will be like a series that sticks with you forever. So that's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments below what some of your winter reading recommendations are and all of that fun stuff. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye, guys.